financial problems, elder law, criminal law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by THAV GROSS. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to this segment of Law and Reality. Today's topic is estate planning's role and managing debt issues with estate planning as well. Brian Small, good morning.
Good morning, Ken. I can't wait to hear all about this show today.
Jeffrey Kirshner.
I'm equally as excited to talk about what I'm going to do when I'm not here.
Jim Simasco.
It's one of my favorite subjects.
Guy.
Planning for it.
Planning for it.
Making it easier for the loved ones.
Before we get to that aspect, I want to go back a couple shows ago when we did debt management, and you were saying about how people waste money in the grocery store.
Oh, people
I
flush it
just
down
want
the
to let
toilet.
you know something. I took your advice to heart because I realized the next Saturday I was in the grocery store. Every Saturday I buy a couple bags of lettuce and items for making a salad.
A couple bags of garbage is what he bought.
In the anticipation that maybe I'll make a salad that week.
Because he was throwing it away.
I only make that, we only decide to have the salad maybe 1 out of 4 times. And your advice was don't buy it then. Go to the grocery store that day if you want to make the salad. So I cut out
interpretation of
I
it.
cut out the 2 bags of lettuce, the cucumbers, I think that's about it because I still buy the onion for other sandwiches and I still buy the tomatoes. But that still saved me probably $8-9 between the bags of lettuce. So now as a result of that, taking your advice, I saw my grocery bill basically go from what was $150 per week when I was doing it, and now it's $165.
150 to 165.
So it still went up, but I don't know why, but I know that I'm saving the $10 that you told me about. So thank you.
Yeah. I'll tell you why it went up. It's because you didn't shop from a list. When you walk back into the grocery store, you're buying other things that you didn't intend to buy when you walked through the grocery store.
That would be true about many people, but you should know me well enough to know that I tend to be somewhat regimented in my methodology and behavior.
Shocking. Ken Gross, regimented.
I do not.
Who would ever believe
I
that?
do not need a list. I buy the exact same things every week.
Well, I'll tell you why it went up. Because the price of food has gone through the roof.
That's why it went up.
And I mean, the best explanation is I was talking to a friend of mine that's in the restaurant business. About 1.5 years ago, do you know what a case of chicken wings used to cost?
No.
$16.
Now?
$125.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
They must be really good chicken wings.
No, they're the same type of chicken wings. That's the problem.
I mean, you did make me more aware of what it's doing. I realize there are 3 things that I spend in the grocery store that are very expensive. I buy a frozen macaroni and cheese, which I have for lunch every day, that costs $6 per shot. So that's basically $30 a week for that lunch.
Is your
I
doctor
buy-
listening to this? Macaroni and
I
cheese
buy
every day.
Tuna,
Did you
made-
get your estate plan done yet? Because
tuna at the deli that is delicious, but that tuna runs $18 for a container. And then the third one is, I can't remember. Oh, the third one is I buy turkey, which my dog loves, which I feed, and I make a couple sandwiches over the counter at the deli. And that went from basically $9 to $16 in the increase. So you take the turkey, the macaroni and cheese, and the tuna, and that's basically half of my grocery bill.
so everybody that wants to, think about this for a second. Ken's been living in the same house for over 30 years. The instructions on his stove are still in them right now because it's never been used.
Well, that's not true. I've used the top stove, but the bottom
It holds
one,
stuff.
the bottom one is for storage. Anyway, back to, but there is a point. The point is you raised my level of consciousness about what I'm spending. So now, even though I haven't decided to cut out the mac and cheese, the turkey, or the tuna, I'm thinking about it because I'm now aware that that's half of my grocery budget, and I'm spending a lot of money for those items, and I recognize that. I also noticed that you can go and buy like chicken fillets that you go and grill on the grill and have a nice chicken dinner for what really costs you about $12 to feed a family of 2. Whereas if you go out to eat and get that, it's going to cost you $35 to $40.
Ah, you just put your finger right on it.
So eating at home is cheaper.
Eating at home is always cheaper.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about estate planning. All right, we're going to talk about 3 areas today. Why you need an estate plan, basic elements of a plan, and how you coordinate estate planning with debt issues. So, guys, why do we need an estate plan?
Because nobody's getting out of this alive.
To make it easier for your family when something bad happens.
Oh, that sounds so nice, but none of us are getting out of this alive.
That's true. But you don't want to be a burden to your family or your children.
That's very true, because we see it all the time where people don't do the estate planning. Someone then passes away, and it adds to the chaos. And the death process is not enjoyable anyway, but you're throwing salt in the wound when there's no estate plan, and you create havoc.
Right.
You got to probate the estate. You got to do all these things.
That's it, right there. Mom passes away. She didn't have a trust set up. She owned a house, and suddenly, instead of being able to instantly sell the house or do whatever you needed to do with it, they've got to open up a probate estate, take 8 months to get this stuff taken
And
care
go
of.
through all
Not
that
just
process.
that, but you want to be certain that whatever your assets are, whatever you have, go to whom you want it. That's a very important thing. Another thing, and I'm sure Jim could talk about this, is any tax consequences. They can certainly protect the family from a lot of tax consequences.
Right. But the worst thing is mom doesn't die, but mom's disabled. Mom can't take care of herself, and you don't have the tools in place.
Then you need the nursing home.
Then you need the nursing homes, you need the guardianships, you need the conservatorships, and the cost of that can be overwhelming. Not to mention the emotional strain on the family taking care of that parent.
And you can save that expense with one key document, can't you?
Yes, well, a set of key documents, the patient advocate, the power of attorney, putting the tools in place so when a loved one does get sick, you can help them efficiently.
Take a break. We come back. Let's talk about what those documents are and what the tools are. We'll be back after the break.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call THAV GROSS.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call THAV GROSS today, 888-235-HELP.
I was married for 57 years before my husband died.
Simasco Law had established a trust for them before this happened.
There's so much to do in the beginning, but after about a month, you're kind of alone.
We deal with estate planning and trusts every day.
If you continue to have good support and know that your finances and your estate is in order, that's one thing that's so comforting. I would just highly recommend Simasco Law.
You can't work. You have to deal with pain and stress. Worse yet, our system for applying for disability benefits seeks to deny you the benefits you're entitled. Jeff Kirschner is an expert in obtaining disability and workers' compensation benefits for his clients. You need to call Jeff before you apply or after you're denied to get the benefits you deserve. 888-235-HELP. 888-235-HELP. If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV GROSS specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call THAV GROSS.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call THAV GROSS. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
All right, we're back. So when we're talking about what are the basic documents and elements of an estate plan? Brian, Jim,
The
what do you
will,
got?
a trust, a patient advocate, and a durable power of attorney. Those are the basic four elements.
Which ones deal with life and which ones deal with death?
It's the patient advocate and the power of attorney, which I consider living probate. That takes care of you while you're alive and you can't handle your assets, or you can't do your banking, or you can't make your medical decisions. The will and the trust is more so after you pass, getting your assets to your beneficiaries in a smooth and efficient, tax-efficient manner.
And then the trust accomplishes avoiding probate in that process
Absolutely.
as opposed to the will.
A will is a sure trip to the probate court.
Yeah. The durable power is one where, I remember with my father, I had his durable power of attorney. He was up there in his age. He still had his faculties together, but he wasn't sharp and he didn't have the stamina to deal with things. So by having the durable power, I could do his banking if it needed to be done. I could deal with Comcast, who kept charging him for Cinemax every month when he didn't even know what Cinemax was. My dear friends at Comcast, every month that would show up on the bill. There was a class action there, but I never did pursue it. Something was going on with how that got on the bill every month.
So what I was going to say is that a lot of times people will call and say, well, can't I just get one online? Can I get a will? Can I get a power of attorney online? And I want to warn people that the stuff that you're looking at online is mostly garbage. It doesn't do what you need it to do. It doesn't have the protections that you need them to have, including having proper Medicaid planning ability in your power of attorney, which is becoming more and more important.
Well, let me give you an example on that. If I had a site that said how to do a will or a trust online that was written by me and had all the forms and everything else, I could say to a client or a friend, go to my site and do it, because I know what I'm doing, and they would know what I'm doing. But just going into the internet, jumping into Google, grabbing onto a link,
I got a
and then
form.
All the
it
forms
says,
online, I got a form.
do this. People think that means it's right. Anything can be on there. You have free access to all of the garbage in the world by going through the internet.
The problem is every situation is a little bit different. A power of attorney for you may be different than the power of attorney for Brian.
For sure.
Everything's case specific.
Like, yeah, you could
Sometimes
have
you
a
want to authorize your agent to have greater authority, sometimes less authority, depending on who the agent is. and
maybe
what
you
the
want to have
relationship-
somebody be able to operate a business. Maybe you want to just restrict them to being able to do things like real estate transactions or banking. There's broad powers, there's limited powers, and knowing what your client needs is really essential.
I do know from a Medicaid planning standpoint, there it's important to give very broad powers.
Absolutely, including gifting powers, including powers to initiate lawsuits if that needs to be.
But you got to be
happened.
very selective of who your attorney is in that case.
Absolutely.
You got to be careful.
And you have to be selective who you appoint too.
Yeah.
You just don't pick the
Yeah, that's right.
oldest
When
kid.
I meant the attorney in fact. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's tie this back to debt issues a bit. So
Okay.
let's just say estate planning, coordinating with debt issues. Suppose one spouse has financial issues, but the other spouse does not. How does that play into the estate planning issues?
Well, you don't necessarily want the one spouse who's financially responsible to leave all of their money and assets outright to the spouse who has debt. You want your spouse who has debt to have access and
so
be able
make
to use
sure
that money.
the spouse with debt dies first.
Well, if we
Is that the solution?
Well, it could be, but that's not necessarily where we're going here. No, what you want to do is have the one spouse who's got the assets and doesn't want to pay the bills of their other spouse to put his or her assets into a spendthrift trust with discretionary powers to the trustee.
So to try and translate that, so the spouse that is financially responsible and has the assets dies, leaving those assets in trust for the benefit of their other spouse who they love and they care for, but that other spouse has debt. So you don't want to just leave the money outright, because if you leave the money outright, the creditors can grab the money.
In fact,
so you make it a discretionary trust that says you only give them the money that they need. Who's the trustee then?
The trustee is not the spouse; it's somebody else who has. Therefore, there's no control by the spouse who's inheriting the asset.
So you can make it a kid?
The good kid. You can make it the good kid, the accountant, the attorney, whoever you trust, because you want to make sure they do the right thing.
And they protect the spouse.
And the beauty of that is that, let's say spouse with debt inherits, would have gotten $1 million from their deceased partner spouse. Being in a trust still, and with that discretionary provision, the spouse with the debt still has the right to file bankruptcy if they otherwise qualify.
Because of the spendthrift provision?
Yeah, because a trustee can't get to the money.
Nobody can get to the
money.
What happens to the money when it's left if you're not giving it to the spouse?
There's a residual beneficiary. So who gets it? The money's for the
kids?
Yeah, for the kids. It's for the disabled spouse or the spouse that needs it. But upon the death, there's an alternative beneficiary, contingent beneficiary,
so
and it goes to them.
What if the kids also have financial problems, or you're worried about the kids getting divorced and the other spouse taking all the money?
With the trust, you can control the assets from the grave, and you could put provisions to protect them too,
including a spendthrift provision to keep.
So if the kid has
kids'
financial
bills.
problems or an unstable marriage or things like that, you can take those steps that way.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? But if you don't do it, you know what happens? It all gets probated. It just gets delivered where the state says it's supposed to go, and that's it.
My favorite one is you always say is there's $100,000 and the 18-year-old inherits it. What's he do with the money?
He's going to buy a Corvette.
What if we come back after the break? I want to know, what if it's not a he and it's a she? We'll be back after the break.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV GROSS specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call THAV GROSS.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call THAV GROSS today, 888-235-HELP.
We were just spinning. We just didn't know what was going to happen next.
At Samasco Law, we deal with these issues every day, especially elder law. Pat went to work for Fran.
Patrick was there holding my hand, kept saying, "We'll get through this, we'll get through this."
He got her husband Medicaid and in a nursing home. Samasco Law got the success they deserved.
Samasco Law is definitely family to me. I really appreciate knowing all of you.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're THAV Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Time for announcements. I want to remind our viewers to listen to us for Law and Reality Live on the Praise Network, Tuesdays 10 o'clock a.m. and Saturdays 7 o'clock a.m. and on KISS 105.9, Sundays 7 o'clock a.m. We have a live seminar coming up. Our next one is on Wednesday, September 28, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Do your estate plan before it's too late. We're going to go over the elements of an estate plan, how to avoid probate, key planning points you need to know. Attendees receive a gold certificate for $300 off the cost of an estate plan. Sign up at thavgross.com, lawandreality.com, or call 888-235-HELP. The cost of the seminar is free. It's a great opportunity to put that estate plan in place that you need to do. Take advantage of it. Call, be sure and sign up. Seminars fill up fast. We're going to remind you, you can always come in at THAV Gross for a free consultation. We do them via teleconference, in office, anytime you want to do it, whatever is your comfort zone. We're happy to accommodate you, given that we're kind of coming out of COVID, but people are still have some concerns. Just call 888-235-HELP or go online to sign up for a free consult. Debt issues, tax issues, estate planning issues, business issues, elder law issues with Pat, disability issues with Jeff Kirshner. Again, sign up at lawandreality.com or thavgross.com or call 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Also, check out our website for free reports. Resolving Tax Problems, The Real Solutions by myself and Jeff Linden. Bankruptcy, Is It Right for Me by Brian Small. How to Save Your Home from Foreclosure. Business Formation Loans and Grants for Small Businesses in Detroit and Michigan. The Retiree's Guide to Social Security from Pat Samasco. I want to thank our sponsors, THAV Gross, Samasco Law, Kirshner Law. Now back to the show.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call THAV Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call THAV Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
All right, we're back. So, Jim, do you see issues with other attorneys and other powers of attorney out there that are done in a way that interfere with Medicaid planning?
Absolutely. In Medicaid planning, a lot of times you have to give money away. The person going into the nursing home has to have zero assets, and there has to be tools in place to allow the attorney, in fact, to divest the person going into the nursing home of their assets.
And you want to give that money really to the children, which are oftentimes the attorney, in fact, the person who's the agent.
Absolutely, and a lot of power of attorneys restrict that ability to give outright gifts. What we want to do is divest the person going into the nursing home of all their assets so they are qualified for Medicaid. And if they're not competent, then you need the power of attorney to effectuate that.
So if the attorney who's doing the estate plan is not thinking about the issue of Medicaid planning, oftentimes those durable powers of attorney will restrict that because in the sense of if you're not thinking about the Medicaid planning, you don't want the person who's designated as the agent to take the money for themselves. So you're worried about that when you're drafting. It's not that the attorneys are dumb or that they're doing something wrong. It's that they're not thinking about the Medicaid possibility. But nursing home care is how much per month?
$9,000-$10,000 a month.
And they live in, what's the average stay?
About 36 months.
So it's big dollars. You know, $350,000 are at stake if you don't do Medicaid planning. Instead of the government paying for it, it comes out of depleting the estate for the other spouse who's still living. It's a big issue.
No,
What
one,
about
one,
in the
one key
business
though,
setting?
I want to make sure everybody realizes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Medicaid planning can be done at the last minute. But if you don't have the before you go into the nursing home, but if you don't have the right language in the power of attorney, you could be really stuck.
Absolutely correct. And in the last minute, a lot of times the person going in the nursing home may not be competent, and they won't have the authority to issue a power of
So
attorney
you
at
can't
that point.
revise it at that point either.
Right.
So what about in the business setting? How to protect business assets when one spouse has serious financial issues?
Well, there's a lot of you're talking about one
We're doing
spouse
this-
being
it's-
insolvent and one spouse being solvent.
Yeah, and they have a business.
So you could deal with transfer on death issues with LLCs. There's a number of different ways.
What is that? Was this like a secret little secret recipe
Well-
that you're telling me about, but you don't want anyone else out there to know?
So in Michigan,
Share.
Well, sometimes we do foreign LLCs that have transfer on death provisions, like the state of Ohio.
So by transfer on death, it means immediately upon your death, the interest in the company, the LLC interest, passes to
The beneficiary.
the third party without going through probate by operation of law.
Correct. But it depends on the state that the LLC is formed in.
Ohio allows that.
I believe Ohio does it. I think Minnesota and Nevada.
Michigan doesn't say
Delaware?
what. Michigan's
I don't
position
know.
on it is we don't know because there's no law on it in Michigan and there's no statute that authorizes.
Right.
it.
These other states have statutes that authorize it. So when you're talking about protecting assets in the form of a business, sometimes it makes sense to go look at outside the box, and that's what we do. We look outside the box to find a solution to make sure that the asset goes from point A to point B without being grabbed by the creditors.
Another, got it. And then another one that we do that people need to consider is, suppose one spouse is doing all right and has assets, the other one doesn't, and they're in a business. So one spouse has $100,000 of credit card debt, but the other spouse is not obligated on it. If there are assets that they have held by the spouse that's financially solvent, we can use that money to settle and resolve the credit card debt doing debt resolution.
Right. Debt resolution is a simple way to get rid of some of the debt or all of the debt, depending on the type.
So there are strategies, and the point is that when you're doing estate plans, when you're analyzing business problems and financial issues, what is owned by the husband, what is owned by the wife, who's obligated on what, who has the problem and who doesn't. We need to take into account all of those factors to develop the plan that accomplishes the goal. The goal is preserve the assets for you and your family, both while living and then upon death. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with Law and Reality.